Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at a Garuda list. This has actually been pretty popular on ladder at the moment, surprisingly. I honestly still prefer Tenko as a variant for Haven, but this deck seems to do alright as well. Of course, one of the key damaging cards being Ruler of Storms Garuda, comboing with a lot of your low cost amulets to really deal damage, which is a pretty big benefit to the deck, honestly. Outside of that though, you do have plenty of ways to go for damage, especially Heavenly Knights along with Summit Temple, and just a multitude of other big-bodied cards. Things like Hind and great cards like March Hare do a really good job of dealing out damage, and that works really nicely. So we're going to get right into it and check this deck out. So kicking things off, we're up against a Shadow. Like I mentioned in some previous videos, definitely not the strongest rotation deck, but still not a bad deck on the whole. And of course they do end up dumping their entire hand. We end up dumping one card, as we do have one Jeweled Priestess already, so starting off with that is pretty nice. The advantage with this deck, initially I thought maybe holding on to amulets was a good idea, but I've learnt now playing this deck a bit, definitely better off just dumping your amulets as you go, just playing out as many as you can, continually getting up, and then hoping that you've set up enough in advance by turn 8 to really play them out. But for the most part you don't need to be too concerned. So Jeweled Priestess, not bad, being able to get it onto the board on 2. Did decide to go for draw power, as we are lacking any variety. We've got 3 Gemstone Carapace, which isn't a great thing to have right now. Would be definitely better mid-game, probably around turn 4 to 6 range, but turn 3 just not quite as nice. And decide to go face, as trading into either of these isn't going to be that beneficial to me, and they're pretty much just going to do it themselves anyway, so we may as well try and negate at least that 1 damage a little bit. And we do finally get our Garuda, Ruler of Storms. I haven't actually used him as just his 1-drop variant in this deck. Really is better off just being saved until later. The best card to set up is March Hare's Tea Time normally, as March Hare's Tea Time is a great long countdown card, which will work really nicely with it. And of course our opponent gets a really nice card there, being able to just take us out. Not a deck I've actually fought against before for Shadow, so definitely an interesting one. March Hare's Tea Time though is a perfect card to deal with this. Unfortunately I do need to use both its effect and its evo to clear out the 3/6, but I think that's pretty beneficial on my end here, especially since we get 2 3/5s out of this with the evo. So we've developed quite a large board. Plus, from here, all we really have to do is secure the board and set up as many amulets as we can for turn 9 and try and abuse it that way. Otherwise, if we happen to get something else decent, we could easily use that to our advantage. All we'd really need to draw at this stage would probably be Summit Temple, would be pretty amazing, honestly. But March Hare's Tea Time will do a good enough job. We can pretty freely clear out this board and set up a 5/5 along with these 3/5s, which are going to give us 6 damage to the face. We aren't in the best spot health wise, so any storm would be pretty dangerous, but everything else is actually pretty reasonable. And even better, we actually have a really nice turn 7, we just need one of these cards to be killed off, which shouldn't have been too difficult for them anyway, so that was always good. So we are going to be able to clean up their entire board and go face for a pretty good amount of damage, honestly. I could not be happier with that turn. It worked out really well for us. Do hold on to that evo just in case we may need to abuse it. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to use our Garuda to its full effect yet, as they just really haven't left us with much wiggle room. And if I had have actually taken enough notice here, I would have realized we would have had lethal with that Summit Temple. A evo on the 3/5 would give us 7 damage plus 6, which would have been 13. Unfortunately, I did miss that. Although really all it did was give them 1 extra turn, and considering they're playing 3 fairy, they really didn't have anything substantial to deal with us. Plus, thinking about it, they really wouldn't have had a lot other than going for a clear anyway, so our Summit Temple play would have still closed out next turn regardless. Really was in our favour, it's just I missed the earlier lethal. And next up we are versing a Forest. I'm not sure whether this is a mid-range or aggro variant, as they do run pretty similar early games, and mid-game is fairly similar. I'm pretty sure this is actually a more mid-range deck just based on it, but it's really hard for me to discern exactly which one, as I'm not a big Forest player and haven't looked into forest decks too much in at least the last week or so to see if there's a big discrepancy between the deck builds. I'm sure you guys know better than me, but either way, it's either an aggro or a mid, so that's usually what I expect out of forest anyway. Starting off with the globe, always a nice way to begin things off, and we're actually pretty amulet heavy in this matchup. So early game is pretty dominated by that. Magical Fairy Lilac, a little bit of an annoying card, one that I can't effectively deal with. That's why we go for this Jeweled Priestess, as hopefully I could soak up its effect. The odds of that happening though aren't exactly high. And then we try and favour some draw power instead. Sometimes I like going for the black, and that is the potential way to go for an OTK with Black Diamond, but the White Diamond draw power is just way too good to pass up, especially since making early game decisions tend to be better. So the double Mori is a nice way to set things up. Unfortunately, again, I couldn't deal with Lilac, so I just decided to leave it on board. I knew it was going to kill off my follower anyway, so no need to waste an Evo. And we actually get a March's Tea Time, which is a nice card there to be able to use. Our hand is pretty stacked, but pretty much anything they play next turn is instantly dead. We're going to pick up 2 kills if they decide to play out followers. So, Stored Falcon, not bad. With an Evo, that definitely makes sense, as it's going to give them a nice way to deal with my 5/5. Although it does waste storm damage, which is something as forest player you probably don't want to be doing. So we only pick off the 1 kill, still worthwhile to limit what they can play. Go for the Jewel Priestess again, this time with the Black Diamond, as we have maxed out our hand and we have our Garuda ready, so we can actually take advantage of those a little bit later. And we stop ourselves just before filling our board, just in case. This way I should be able to abuse other cards, hopefully. And there's a really good card. That 6/5 play is just a crazy one. It's always an annoying card to deal with, especially when they start pinging damage. Fortunately, in rotation, it's not quite as strong as it is in Unlimited, but it's still a big threat and something that you don't want to have to worry about. And considering we haven't been dealing a lot of damage, really we're going to be relying on that Garuda to really close this game as close as possible. And that 5/4 is a little bit of a pain. Definitely not the card I wanted to have to deal with. And it allows them to draw, which is probably worse. So, definitely a struggle now, as we do want to deal with this entire board as effectively as we can. Unfortunately, we just don't have a card to do that right now. So, instead, I do just decide to completely screw my Garuda over, play out this entire turn, guarantee that hopefully I could get some form of good clear here. Whether it was going to be a best clear, like I probably could have killed the 2/2 and saved 1 health, but overall it was good enough. Plus, we've got the amulets to kind of restock up a little bit and set up our turn 10 Garuda play instead, which I'm pretty happy with. Bringer of Storm does a pretty good job at cleaning up. And I end up with the Blackened Scripture. Whether I made the right play or not, I'll leave that up to you, but I think I probably should have just flooded in my amulets instead overall. Although, playing out the Summit Temple now isn't obviously a bad option. Plus, we happen to have a second one, and now drew a third one, so we're milling our deck out just that slight amount. Just enough to kind of get us there. And we are going to be 1 short of lethal if we decide to use Garuda, which is very disappointing. I only need that 1 damage. And I can't really afford to leave up this board, so I don't really know what I was going to do, but Ruler of Storms ended up being the way I went. I took the chance on it, going to get this. I did decide to clean up the 4, though, because I didn't want to have to deal with that, so at least this way I should survive regardless. Korra, so definitely I'd say mid-forest looking at it. Aggro Forest usually would be a little more aggressive, as I did fight a couple of aggro forest decks in the past couple of days, and I would say they were definitely more aggressive, but still, mid-forest is quite a strong deck, and to be able to beat it with this was quite fun, so not a bad matchup at all to get Garuda off. So Garuda is a pretty fun card to play, honestly. I had a lot of fun using it the few times I have. Chicken Wing Man does a wonderful job, so if you guys did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. This deck is quite fun. You'll find it in the description below, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.